Hey, you geeks. Oof, the Blood Calls Blood was kind of a downer, but it was supposed to be. So, good job, Amazon. You made me feel the feels. However, it also seems like you sidetracked our supposed main five to focus on some random, though tragic, side character.
It brings on many changes.
It's no book spoiler to say that Robert Jordan loved to go off on side character tangents, but this is the sort of thing I'd hope the adaptation would change. So let's break this episode down through characters, world building, magic system, and plot, which will contain spoilers through all of Amazon's released content. Then we'll talk adaptation, which will contain book spoilers. If you like how I break it down, feel free to like, subscribe, and comment. Iguain. I can't believe she's my favorite character this episode. Madeline is killing it as Iguain, but also, this episode left our main five with very little to do. Hearing her tell Valda exactly where to shove it easily took the cake this episode.
If you're going to do it, then do it.
She proves just how sturdy Two Rivers folk can be. She doesn't break under torture, nor does she break when learning the truth about Perrin's wife. Then, in the nick of time, she finds the source and devises a clever plan for escape. As an added bonus, she stabs Valda on the way out. I'm not really surprised that Iguain is capable of stabbing a man. She was willing to stab Trollocs in episode 1. I'm more surprised that Perrin seemed to have just stood there and didn't kill anyone. Nynaeve. This woman refuses to play by the Aes Sedai's rules. Though I can't decide if acting as a drug dealer for a clearly depressed, self-medicating warder was a good idea.
I promise you the pain will never go away.
I'm going with she did her best, giving him non-lethal doses of goat's tongue, but was just in way over her head. Speaking of out of her league, Liandrin and Nynaeve seem to be becoming best of frenemies.
But now you've escaped Moraine's cage, you should enjoy your freedom.
I'm surprised Nynaeve actually went to the gardens. She spent her whole time defying Aes Sedai, and the first advice she took was from Liandrin? Well, it worked out this time.
By the light. The braid is a distinct rite of passage in the We thought you were dead.
We get to see her be a wisdom to her people. Seeing her in her element is a joy, but she is clearly not in her element in the tower. Lan. Once again, his character is mainly portrayed through epic stares, shoulder grabs, and occasionally kneeling in grief. I guess it's his story of failing to save Stepan. It was heartbreaking to see him try and ultimately fail. As a viewer, I now know the full weight of what awaits Lan should Moraine fall in battle. We can hope Alana is right.
Lan has nothing to worry about. You'll be here with us a long time yet.
But if she is, this arc serves no purpose whatsoever. Matt. Matt is an unlikable husk of a man this episode, snapping at small children and Nynaeve.
What is it, you piece of shit?
This is exactly how he was in the books, and I hated him then. However, this show still gives him time to be likable. Insane as he is, Matt is still concerned about little Elsa Grinwell.
Tell me again.
Matt,
A little girl. On the farm.
it wasn't you, Matt.
He also makes this pact with Rand, though I'm not sure exactly what they are agreeing to.
If it turns out it's one of us,
that you or me can channel. We won't let each other become like that.
Are they agreeing to kill each other if they ever go crazy? Light forbid one of them just starts laughing for no apparent reason. Though I think looking at Matt is a fine reason to just start laughing maniacally. Perrin should be higher, but to say his arc was a dog's breakfast is an insult to dogs' breakfasts.
One more turnip curry, and I'll be joining the dogs.
He undergoes torture and is willing to die so that Iguain may go free. It's more out of self-punishment than heroic self-sacrifice, but at least he opened up about what happened to Layla.
I killed her.
Although I did not like her addition, it's important that characters act like she mattered, or else Layla would have been truly pointless. Yet the script only gives us a moment to feel Perrin's grief before, boom, Valda walks in. Perrin's eyes go golden and wolves attack. Eye color changing in fantasy is kind of a big deal, yet Perrin's transformation is almost a blink and you'll miss it. Just as Perrin mentions as an aside, he knows what a wolf is thinking.
How do you know?
Lopin is incredibly curious to find out how Perrin achieves this, and I agree. Something massive just changed, and the show won't tell us.
I'm telling you, you're messing up the story. Now get it right.
Is this supposed to be a sign of the dragon? Because I thought the show was trying to narrow it down between the possibly mad family killer Matt and the women. Though Rand seems familiar with Dragonmount. Odd that Rand comes in last. Again. He didn't do anything wrong, just more all-around good farm boy vibes from him. He stayed with Matt despite the craziness.
I think he can channel.
Beyond that, he seems to exist solely to run into people more interesting than he is. Like an Ogier, though Loyal seems to think Rand is odd.
I like oddities.
Loyal's interest in Rand makes Rand slightly more interesting by association, though I find it most interesting that Matt seemed to fear Logain's madness, while Rand was scared of...
We saw what the Aes Sedai did to the false dragon.
All the Aes Sedai did was capture and gentle Logain, but they didn't make him go mad. Tarvalen. We've arrived. Our short time in the city gives us quick peeks of the world at large. The tower itself holds the Aes Sedai, their warders, and the Flame of Tarvalen. Interesting method of ring disposal. But I suppose new rings are forged from those fires as well. There are no endings in the Wheel of Time after all. When one story ends, another begins. We meet an Ogier.
You're an ogre.
Ogier.
Whose people apparently built this city.
Thousands of years ago, long before the walls of our great city were raised by Ogier hands.
But the city folk do not recognize Ogiers as friendly.
Children cried, women screamed, and a mob chased me all the way across the city waving knives.
Loyal doesn't look scary to me, though he actually sounds exactly like he does in the audiobook. I'm not quite sure what to make of him, though neither apparently does Rand. Loyal's a new thread in a rapidly changing pattern. Dark magic. Ogiers aren't this episode's only new threads. We also learn about the Forsaken. Apparently that one legendary dark friend
Ishamiel
was a Forsaken, an immortal channeler who sold his or her soul to the Dark One. Steppen trying to ward them off was a great introduction.
Ishamiel. Father of lies.
Though I wonder at the logic of having statues of the things you want to keep out. Don't people generally build statues of guard animals like gargoyles or lions to ward off evil? I count 8 Forsaken statues, and judging by Steppen's tragic backstory,
These belonged to my mother. The only thing left in our house when she died.
it seems they work more as conduits of evil rather than warding evil off. Alcoholism and suicidal depression are quite bad, but these seem rather mundane as dark magic. Let me know down in the comments if you think a Forsaken brought about Steppen's downfall. Plot. The antagonist this week seems to be the madness of men. Though, I suppose, if you asked a Red Sister, that is the antagonist every week. Speaking of madmen, what is Pylon Fane doing in Tarvalen? He's just sitting there watching underage girls go by. And I'm pretty sure he watched Rand and Matt go into the Light's Blessings Inn. We hear him whistle. I didn't think he was dead, but that takes some dedication to trace the boys all the way to Tarvalen.
On the other hand, it could just be an amazing coincidence.
Unfortunately, the other madman this episode is Steppen. I want to give the show credit for writing his tragic story and highlighting the trauma of war. Steppen leading Karini's horse with the boots backwards in the stirrup was so beautiful. Then Steppen acts happy after he's committed to a path of self-destruction.
But hey, there's a first time for everything.
Well, you're assuming they want you.
What not to want, huh?
These details are just so on point that I cannot call this episode badly written. But I do mourn that this story seemed to come at the expense of other major character moments of, dare I say, more important characters. The momentum of the first half of the season is screeching to a halt as the characters converge on the tower. And the show has given us very little information as to what happens next. Adaptation. This section will contain book spoilers through Book 6, Lord of Chaos. So leave now if you want to avoid that. My best explanation for why the show took this interlude is to lay the ground for Alana bonding Rand as a warder against his will. However, the trivia post makes a point of stating that a warder must consent. Is that must a statement of fact or a statement of tradition?
And how do we keep our balance? That I can tell you in one word. Tradition!
The books give us conflicting messages about the seriousness of Alana's action. First, Moraine mentions it in passing in Book 2, and it upsets Lan. She seems to think he'll get over it, which is very Moraine to trivialize such things. But then it trivializes the mental trauma for the reader as well. In the show, Moraine doesn't sound like she will pass the bond, merely drop it.
I read once there's a way to release the bond.
I won't waste time speculating about those changes until we get closer. Back to Alana, when she takes Rand in the book, the worst anyone can say is that it's like rape. Meanwhile, Matt is getting literally raped in Ibu Dar and no one cares. The show setting up that warder bonds are one way Aes Sedai believe they can keep a man from going crazy and destroying himself makes Alana's future actions more understandable to the audience, while also explaining that the bond brings with it a lot of mental baggage.
If you bond another Aes Sedai.
First you lose Moraine and then tell me how easy it is to jump from one woman to the next.
I hope the show is allowing the audience to draw their own conclusions and their own level of outrage for future events. This explanation is my only solace for Perrin getting backburnered. In the book, he gets his big moment with the White Cloaks, and then he backs off. I'm hoping this means he'll do something cool in the finale. Though we are almost running out of time to set that up, the Eye of the World has the same problem. So I must admit, this episode is true to the spirit of Robert Jordan. I just wanted more Perrin. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you would like to see more. Your patronage is greatly appreciated.